You're tuned in to another episode of Recruitment Entrepreneurs by Recruit CRM. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Recruitment Entrepreneurs by Recruit CRM. And today I have the awesome Ivan Stravanovic. I think I messed that up, but Ivan can fix it up. So Ivan's from Ireland, and Ivan, can you tell us your story? Right, where are you from? How did you end up in recruitment? What's going on with your life?
Originally, I'm from Croatia, down south in Europe. I got a job in 1998 in Microsoft in Ireland. So moved here to Dublin in 1998, spent like 5 years in Microsoft, and then set up my own software company and was like a software engineer, doing software engineering projects for about next 5-10 years. Then loads of clients became recruitment agencies, and I kind of became known as the guy that makes your best recruitment websites that kind of works best with all the other software as well.
Cool.
And it was in those early days where the integration wasn't just Zapier or whatever that exists today. You basically had to hard code in databases, like all the things really, really hard. So I set up a group of engineers, and we've been kind of re-engineering the recruitment process from the ground up in the back end, usually. And we did it for about maybe 100, 150 recruitment agencies in Ireland and the UK. Word spread out, and we've published the first Irish multiple job posting software called eRecruit.
Cool.
Yeah,
okay, cool. Cool.
It actually worked really, really well, but we had a problem in 2009. We've probably lost about 95% of business when in the economic crash, and
wow.
I had to rethink everything from the scratch.
Oh, got it. And so, what were you basically selling? So, eRecruit is obviously a well-known brand, right?
eRecruit was a well-known brand today. In the last 10 years, we had eRecruit.ie in 2005. So it was before eRecruit was known what is eRecruit today.
Got it. But what was yours just a multi-posting, or was it also an ATS back then?
It was just a multiple job posting software. And the way multiple job posting software worked then was also quite different. Like we were literally FTPing CSV files and weird stuff.
It was painful back then. I understand.
Very painfully.
And I was in high school back then, so I didn't have to deal with any of this. But
lucky you.
But to go back, Ivan, you obviously started as an engineer, and by the sounds of it, a computer science engineer. And so what made you say that, okay, I'm going to stop writing code and start doing recruitment? Because you did become a proper recruiter that was actually recruiting candidates.
Yes. Well, I kind of looked at what recruiters are doing. And when I was implementing our software in different offices, companies. I would sit in the companies. I would basically sit with them and listen to them on the phone and everything else. And I was like, guys, that's just a very poor way of doing things. Yeah. So I started, my first actually gigs were how to train. I was actually training recruiters before I became a recruiter.
Yeah.
So, and then I trained pretty much all major Irish recruitment agencies, like off top 50, I've trained probably 40. And then I realized, okay, there's tons of money in recruitment. And I set up a recruitment company called Irish Recruiter, because I'm not really Irish. And I wasn't really a recruiter. So I said, what a better way of branding myself than Irish Recruiter. And Irish Recruiter became a shop for IT candidates. And we exploited the fact that I was from Croatia, and Croatia joined the EU. So all of a sudden, all the Croatian people could come in Ireland or anywhere in the EU and go and work, which they couldn't before because of visas and work permits.
Yeah.
And we moved like the top cream of the crop of Croatian software developers, mostly in Ireland, which was really, really good for Ireland, not that good for Croatia. So people in Croatia, my mom would always say, you should rename your company into Brain Drain or something, because it's not really.
Yeah. But now to follow up on this, right? So you obviously did the recruitment. Do you remember what the business model was like in the first year? Do you remember what you made doing recruitment the first year?
My first year was the funniest year of them all. it was about 10 years ago. And as opposed to be hunting one by one people, what I organized was I organized a recruitment fair in Croatia and
Wow.
invited three employers from here in Dublin to fly there over the weekend. So I flew them there for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I organized like 50 or actually on the books, I had like 70 people in a hotel, but actually 50 of them actually came or were really good candidates. And I think more than 40 something actually got the offer, but 39 people actually got the job there.
And how did you get paid for that? Did you get paid per candidate or like how did you get paid?
We got paid, so a recruitment fee of 10%. So 10% of the salary, which was like dirt cheap for the employers.
I understand, but for you that must have been a killing because you just one weekend and boom.
Yeah, you can say it's 1 weekend, but actually it took like 3 months of sourcing to prepare all this.
Of course.
Built, and for that project actually, and that was like 10 years ago, we've built tons of automation on top of LinkedIn, on top of other platforms that existed then and don't exist actually now anymore. We built tons of automation so that it automatically invites people on social media, talks to them, sends them a nurturing campaign via the social media messaging. And what we developed then for that became later on a few products that now we sell in parallel. So now we have Irish Recruiter as recruitment agency, which is currently just 4 people. Yeah, we're a little bit downsized.
And how is that agency doing today? Like how much revenue will it do this year, or how much did it do last year?
We kind of do like 200K, 250K per person. So currently
per person. That's not bad at all. And this is all permanent recruitment, or is this like more staffing revenue?
It's just permanent recruitment.
Oh wow, that's not bad at all, right? If you have a 4-person firm generating 800K, I'm guessing it's a good business.
I hope this year is going to be better. But actually, money is just the reflection of what you do. The more important thing is what I'm kind of really looking forward to expand going forward is the software business.
Of course.
We do have a number of those software like recruitment and sales automation tools that are automating what you do on social media and kind of enable people to share. So loads of all the tools that you buy today enable you to do everything as one person, where we took it to the next level. And I said, okay, how about if we want to make sure that if 5 of us work in the same team, that we never message the same person.
Sure. But to go back, right, since most of the audience are people that are trying to start a new recruitment business or thinking about getting a job as a recruiter, right? How do you see this job as different from your job doing engineering? Because you're obviously different from a traditional agency recruiter. You've actually had a career doing engineering
in IT,
which is a well-paying job in most situations, right? So how do you go from doing a super technical job to maybe hiring technical people? And I'm guessing you said that you thought there was a better way of doing it. You were technical, you could talk to the candidates better, and you probably made more money doing it. But what do you think are the differences, apart from the money, on a day-to-day basis that probably are worse about recruitment or is better in recruitment than in engineering?
I'll tell you actually what happens. Your first maybe 6 months, you're actually going to make more money as a recruiter because you've prepared everything and you actually kind of warmed up the clients, candidates, and everything else. So when you make a jump from being an engineer for 100K, and the recruiter would usually earn about half of that salary, but you have everything prepared, so you're actually going to make more money. But then you might get into a chasm of 6 months or 20 months where your salary is going to be like half or even less than what you've been earning before. So it's a dangerous jump. And I basically say the career that I had just wasn't linear. It was like going all over the place. And it's tough on people as well. And I'm not sure if I would recommend it to everyone who is not ready for crazy stuff. Would I do it again? Would I do it again? Yes. And my advice to people would be just don't wait and start preparing. Yeah, just do it. Start preparing everything in parallel with whatever your job is. And then when you make a switch, just make sure there are no huge fluctuations in earning.
And quick question, right? So about fluctuation, because recruitment is one of those jobs where cash flows can be horrible, right? If you're running a new agency. So have you experimented with a retained recruitment model where you try to pick up a retainer from clients, or have you always worked on a contingent model where you only take money once you make the placement, which also makes it a hard job, right? Because the cash flow can become a problem. So how have you approached that sort of
In the first 5 years of the company, I only worked on so
contingent?
no retainers, just no, just
Yeah.
just on success. And
Okay.
that's basically your problem because you're unknown, you're not proven, you're establishing a new
Yeah.
business. So getting a retainer, or I probably don't have or didn't have good sales skills
Yeah.
to sell that as well. And I wasn't known. I didn't have any experience of being a recruiter in any big agency
Of
or
course.
anything else. So for me, it didn't work. But today we get more contingency offers from candidates, from clients than to
Yeah.
be paid on placement. So today people basically come and say, look, either Ivan or Andrea or Luca, whoever works here, they basically say, can you be on a lookout? We are looking for a new sales director for our SaaS company. We are looking for our new CFO or whatever else. Can you be on a lookout for a person? And we get more people interested to work with us on
And
those bases.
how have you seen the fees change? Because obviously you said you started and did 10%. That's obviously not sustainable in a developed market.
No.
So what are the fees today that Irish Recruiter charges? Is it 15%? Is it 20? Is it 25? What has that evolved to?
It actually depends on on number
Okay.
of things. First is we usually work with a company and staff them so much that they kind of stop working with us because they have pipeline that is bigger that they can swallow in the
Okay.
next 6 months or whatever. So you're kind of victim of your own success in a sense.
Yeah.
And for those, charging 20 would just be too much because it doesn't actually make sense for none of us. If it's one job, we don't work below 20%, but we also don't work for any job below 15%. There's no need.
Got it. So the lowest you charge today is 15%, but if people are giving you like just one job, you try to charge 20 or 25, right?
In Ireland we rarely go above 20. We
Got
go
it.
above 20 for roles where the role company compensation is not very favorable.
Can you give me an example just so the audience understands what you're talking about?
Yes. So if you have a company that is looking for a person that can only come from, let's say we had a company who was creating a new public cloud service offering.
Yeah.
So they could only hire from Amazon, Microsoft Azure, or Facebook
Alibaba,
has their own.
Maybe.
Yeah, actually, we were at the beginning. We were not smart enough to actually look at Alibaba.
Yeah.
So yes, lesson learned. Or Google, and it was a kind of semi-small startup. So how do you convince somebody from Golden Handshake? Yes, to join, and the salary cannot be too high because it is a startup. It wasn't that well funded. So we said, look, if we manage to do this, we'll have to charge you because the amount of hours that this role requires is tremendous, and the likelihood of us actually succeeding is not really high, actually.
And so did you take a retainer in that situation, or did you just charge a 25% like success fee or something?
We increased from 20, we went up, and we actually went quite high up, but actually ended up with me flying to different research centers in Europe. I spent a lot of time in Zurich, in Switzerland, where Google is doing the development of the SRE platform, and spoke to loads of people there. And luckily, we were successful. But it could have not converted as well, and I was quite prepared for that as well.
Got it. But was the salary reasonable? Like, was it in 200 plus or like 100, like 150 plus? Like what range was this person?
Salary was there was a drop in salary from what the gentleman had there to what he got in a startup of about 45%.
Oh wow. Okay, so this was a hard sell, right? Because
yeah.
Got it. Because you're telling someone to come in at a pay cut for more equity or something, but that equity is probably worthless at that stage because it's
Exactly.
startup.
So in those cases, you have to bump the fee because the likelihood of filling a position like this is actually extremely low.
Yeah, totally understand. And so once you started getting your software, the recruitment business to essentially, I'm guessing you had times when you did $1 million in a year, right? As a company. How long did it take you to take it to $1 million?
As a software company, no, we actually stayed quite small, and there were times when I was actually alone in a company.
No, not software. The recruitment business.
Sorry, as a recruitment business, that's our recruitment business. What actually never grew too much.
Got it.
Probably the reason because I myself am extremely picky about clients. So if I don't believe in their product, technically, me being a techie, I kind of just say, no, guys, you cannot do this in Elixir. It's a wrong language for that.
And so now, like maybe the people listening, right, who actually have careers in maybe engineering or marketing or sales, were like, hey, maybe I can do recruitment. When you thought about the transition, what was your backup plan? So if you started doing this recruitment business, I'm sure you talked internally. If you have a wife or husband, you probably talk to them and you go, hey, if this doesn't work out in 6 months or 1 year, this is what I'm going to do. What was your backup plan?
So I froze my job actually that I had for 6 months, and I agreed with my manager and said, look, I want to try to do something else in life. I like my job and everything else. I could always come back. And actually, what happened is that a year later, I placed him, my ex-manager, into another role as well. Because he loved the service that we were providing.
That is awesome. And so another question, right? How much did it cost you to run your recruitment business for the first year? How much money did you end up burning before you started making money? Do you remember?
In Ireland, it's extremely cheap. In Ireland, you set up a company for €350. You spend like company registration office €40. So it's peanuts. It's nothing. It's basically all the other costs will be below the cost of a good laptop. So your laptop is actually, but it's literally that. In Ireland, actually your laptop is your largest expense, and it's actually as bigger than all the other expenses altogether.
Got it. So literally like 2,000 or 3,000 euros or dollars, including your computer and everything.
Including your computer and everything.
And like a LinkedIn subscription and all of that. And
that I did not have then. And that is long ago where subscriptions were actually totally different than they are today. And as you know, they change every year.
But today you probably need a LinkedIn subscription and an ATS and stuff to like have a real toolkit to like go live.
Well, today the recruitment then was totally manual, and where we are today is where we automate absolutely everything. So your ATS, your sourcing software, basically need to be connected 100%. Your email connected.
And so, Ivan, like being honest about this, right? It's so cheap to get started. The only risk is obviously not getting a salary, right? Till you make a placement. How long did you take to make your first placement and collect the first check?
I don't remember.
Was it less than 6 months? Was it less than 6 months?
It was less than 3 months.
Okay, perfect. So in the first 3 months, you've literally put in 2 or 3K plus whatever your living expenses are, and you probably make a check that pays for your first 3 months of living expenses anyway.
Luckily enough, our first check actually paid for over a year.
Brilliant. So what's stopping people from starting more businesses, more recruitment businesses? Because this is a great way if you're motivated and you're driven. You don't really need a very hardcore education to become a great recruiter, right? And you don't need a lot of financial capital and backing. So what's stopping people from building great recruitment businesses today?
Well, what's stopping people from starting, I don't know. Like you mentioned the education. I have masters in geology, but it's totally useless in recruitment. But I have all the experience, like 10 years of Microsoft IT and whatever. 90% of this is useless. Slightly
useful, but it depends on what you're recruiting for, right? But
exactly.
A recruiter could learn that if they really wanted to recruit cloud engineers, they could spend 2 months just going crazy, and
2 months is even too much. Like you can spend, I think, weeks worth of reading how does Amazon Cloud work, and talking to some engineer and getting a few pints with somebody will teach you absolutely everything that you need to know. So you can learn this in a week. What's stopping people? I don't know. In Ireland, it could be the competition. We are here a very small country, but you have to be aware that Ireland and UK are slightly different environments than anything else. We have, I think, like 1,000 recruitment agencies registered in a country that has only 4 million people, which is basically 2 million workforce and 1,000 recruitment agency, which basically means that like there's 1, 2, 3 people, there's one recruiter, 1, 2, 3 people, one recruiter. Recruitment here doesn't really work through direct almost at all. A lot goes to recruitment agencies, and the people don't really want to have internal recruiters. That has changed actually in the last couple of years, and now people are building larger and larger recruitment teams in-house.
And now that you're based in Ireland, but what stops you from recruiting for companies in Germany or the United Kingdom or in Norway? What's
nothing? The only thing is for us is we don't do absolutely any marketing and we don't do any sales. We just work with people who come to talk to us.
Got it. Because I know the fees in France and Germany are a lot higher, right? We've talked to people that on an average charge 25, 30, 35%. And even higher salaries in certain cases, right? Salaries in Munich and Berlin or in London are higher by default. And I there's this advantage because you're in the same economic zone, same tax regime or similar tax regime. And there is a way, there's an opening to do business if you want to. So I'm just wondering what's stopping you from doing that.
There is. But nothing really, and sometimes we serve companies there as well. I am amazed actually at the moment what is happening in Estonia. So we actually work with companies that are north side of Europe. We do some business with some German companies, some German startups as well, but startups in Estonia at the moment, that is a booming market, and I think
it's crazy.
It's crazy. Whoever's doing recruitment absolutely anywhere should be targeting Estonia as close to the top of their list.
Yeah, they have so many unicorns, and each unicorn needs hundreds of engineers right now. Like within 2 months, they want to hire 100 people, and that's a lot of fees to go out. So towards now that we're coming to the end of this podcast, right? What's one thing that you expected that should happen when you started a recruitment business that didn't happen?
Well, nothing happened what I expected, to be honest. I kind of thought that we're going to be one of the shops like the shops that I was training before.
Yeah.
But we just became totally different company. And we ended up with putting loads of people in the companies to build and train and coach internal recruitment teams in-house. Yep. Which recruitment agencies don't do. And we do this a lot. And I enjoy this. And for last year, I spent a year with a company working inside. And I just love this as well.
One more follow-up question, right? What do you hate about your job? What's the one thing that sucks about your job? Because everyone has things that suck about your job, right? So what sucks about running a recruitment business or doing recruitment?
I have to think very hard about it. The benefits that there are so overwhelming that
I'm sure and the benefits outweigh the cons, which is why you do it, but there have to be some cons, right? Some things suck about the job, right? What do you think that you don't like? What part do you not like?
Sometimes I get the difference of opinion. So I'm an engineer myself, and sometimes when I see a candidate, I know before the interviews or just after half an hour of chat, I know straight away. I've seen his code. I've spoke to him. I know his managers. So I know right away, this is the right guy for this company. And I get either the hiring manager or in more cases, the HR, which says, oh, would this be a culture fit or whatever else? And I see especially HR kind of stopping beautiful hires. And I, as a software engineer and with 20, 30 years of experience, know that this is a diamond, a pearl that would just grow fantastically in a company. And you get a young HR person who says, who finished the whatever master's in HR, and she's like, oh, this guy is coming from a bank, we are a startup, or the other way around. Will this work? And I'm kind of saying,
Got it. So you don't like working with HR people, basically. Not always, but sometimes.
that is absolutely not the truth. I also organized the HR conference here in Ireland, Disrupt HR, and it's HR people are fabulous. And I got some HR certifications myself as well, but not everybody agrees with every single opinion.
I totally understand. And what's what are your growth plans now? So what's the game for the next 5 or 10 years, right? If someone had to ask you, what are you going to do now?
Well, what I really want to do now is go sailing around the world.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I'm getting to that stage in life where you're kind of like toning down absolutely everything that you do. And you're kind of like, okay, done that. And now I can I can do things that I always wanted to do, which don't really need to be super profitable as well.
Of course.
I do them because
right.
They make me happy and smiling, waking up and booting the computer and working and standing the whole day in front of my lovely.
Once you make a certain amount of money, right? Like beyond that, like there's not so much more you can just satisfy yourself by buying stuff, right? Like there's a threshold beyond which it's diminishing returns, right?
And in recruitment, you can reach this quite quickly. So if you're super successful and if you choose wisely first few customers, you can basically make whatever you need for your life in a couple of years really quickly. And you build a lot of automation, you can make this happen. But then you basically have to decide whether you want to grow this to become an IPO or whatever else, or you want to live your life. I have very, very early decided, okay, I'm buying a boat and I want to sail for a few months every summer.
Beautiful. And follow-up question, right? So you talked about your boat in your life. So what does your life include? Like, are you married? Do you have children? Do you have a dog? Do you have a cat? Do you have a snake? I don't know. Like,
married, 2 children that finished universities. They're all sailors in a company. In a family. We're a great company for sailing. And up until I think 2 years ago, we actually went sailing together. Like all of us.
That's awesome.
So
that's beautiful.
So, but I think my kids are probably spoiled in this because they don't know what real life actually looks like.
I think that's every parent. My dad would probably say the same thing. But final question, right? To end this, if you were to go back in time and talk to your 20-year-old self for 5 minutes, and you had to give one piece of advice other than start earlier, right? What would it be?
Invest in Bitcoin.
No, not something that obvious, right?
It would be think of what you enjoy doing and what you are doing while you are not doing anything. And for me, it took like 10 years of education in geology and then 10 years of experience in IT to realize that what I enjoy the most is putting people in groups together and organizing them to work on something. Where 1 + 1 person is not 2 but 25 more. Because it's just more. So that brings me joy. And what brings me joy is to see the smile on their face 2 years later or 3 years later.
And the phrase is basically find what you love quicker, right? Try more things, find what you love quicker, and then just keep doing it, and that'll make you happy. That was beautiful, Ivan. Like that, we loved having you. This was great. I'm sure people watching this will find it useful, especially when they consider moving careers and coming into recruitment. I think this will be great context. Thank you.
Sean, it was a pleasure. Thank you very much. And a message to all the young aspiring entrepreneurs, just go do it. It's the right time to do it right now. 2021 is the perfect year to start your company.
Awesome. And that's all for today's episode of Recruitment Entrepreneurs. Like and follow us if you liked today's episode and want to hear more stories from the world of recruitment.